In a happy little village called a Boodoo, right next to a sparkling river, lived two best friends, Clara and Emily. From the time they were tiny and just learning to walk, they did everything together. The villagers always smiled when they saw them, hand in hand, laughing and playing like two peas in a pod. Every morning, they would walk to the stream to fetch water, singing songs and telling stories along the way. During village festivals, they danced together, their feet moving in perfect rhythm, as if they shared the same heartbeat. And when the moon rose high in the sky, they would sit under its soft glow, whispering secrets and dreaming about the future. Clara was a clever one, always thinking fast and finding smart ways to solve problems. If someone lost a goat or needed help fixing a broken fence, Clara would come up with a plan. The villagers admired her quick mind and often asked for her advice. Emily, on the other hand, was kind and gentle, with a smile that could brighten even the rainiest day. She loved helping the elderly, carrying their baskets, or simply sitting with them to listen to their stories. Her heart was full of love, and everyone in a Boodoo adored her. As the years passed, the two girls grew older, and little by little, things began to change. New responsibilities came, and sometimes they couldn't spend as much time together as before. But no matter what happened, their friendship remained strong, just like the roots of the oldest tree in the village. One day, during a grand village celebration, Emily's kindness and beauty caught the eye of someone very important. King Charles, the young and respected ruler of the land. King Charles was strong and wise, with a voice that commanded respect, yet his eyes were warm and kind. The moment he saw Emily dancing in the village square, his heart was captured. Without delay, he went to her family and asked for her hand in marriage. The whole village rejoiced. Emily, their beloved friend, was to become a queen. Clara stood among the cheering crowd, forcing a smile. She told herself she was happy for Emily. After all, what could be better than seeing her best friend loved and honored? But deep down, in a hidden corner of her heart, Clara felt a strange, heavy feeling. As time passed, Emily moved into the grand palace, wearing beautiful royal robes and standing proudly beside King Charles. The villagers bowed to her, and she greeted them with the same gentle smile they had always known. Whenever Clara saw Emily laughing with her husband or walking gracefully through the palace gardens, her chest tightened with an emotion she didn't want to name, envy. One afternoon, Emily visited Clara in her small hut by the river. "Clara," she said, her eyes shining with happiness, "you must come to the palace more often. It feels so empty without you there." Clara forced another smile. "I will try," she replied softly, though her heart burned with jealousy. As days turned into weeks, Clara's envy grew stronger. She started making excuses whenever Emily invited her to the palace. "I have too much work," she would say, or "I'm not feeling well." But the truth was, Clara couldn't bear to see Emily's happiness anymore. The more Emily glowed in her new life, the more Clara's heart ached. She missed the old days when they were just two village girls, whispering under the moonlight, dreaming simple dreams. Now, Emily lived in a world of riches and love, while Clara remained in her quiet hut, feeling left behind. But deep down, Clara knew this wasn't right. Emily was still the same kind friend she had always been. Was it fair to blame her for finding happiness? Clara sat by the river, watching the water flow, just like time, always moving forward, never backward. She wondered if a jealousy would ruin the most precious friendship she had ever known. One night, as Clara lay in her bed staring at the ceiling, a terrible thought slithered into her mind like a snake. "Why should Emily have everything?" she whispered into the darkness. "If she were gone, I could be queen instead." The thought frightened Clara at first, but like a weed growing in a garden, it refused to go away. Each time she saw Emily sitting beside King Charles, laughing in her beautiful gowns, the idea grew stronger. "It should be me," Clara thought bitterly. "I deserve happiness too." Then she remembered the stories about the Witch of the Woods, an old, powerful woman who lived deep in the forest. People said she could make impossible wishes come true, for a price. Clara didn't care about the price. She only cared about her wish. Before the sun rose the next morning, Clara sneaked out of her hut and tiptoed toward the shadowy forest. The trees loomed tall, their twisted branches blocking out the sunlight. Strange sounds echoed around her, an owl's eerie hoot, leaves crunching under unseen feet, and a low growl that made her skin prickle. Clara's heart pounded, but she clenched her fists and kept walking. I have to do this, she told herself. After hours of stumbling through the thick woods, she finally spotted a tiny hut made of crooked sticks and dried leaves. Smoke curled from its chimney, and a sour, strange smell hung in the air. Clara's legs shook as she stepped closer. There, sitting by a bubbling black pot, was the old woman. Her hair was wild like tangled vines, and her eyes, sharp and yellow, locked onto Clara's face as if she already knew why she was there. "What brings you here, child?" the witch asked, her voice like crackling fire. Clara swallowed hard. I want my friend gone," she blurted out. "I want to take her place as queen." The old woman's lips curled into a crooked smile. "That is a dark wish," she said slowly. "Are you ready for the consequences?" "Yes," Clara said without hesitation. "I'll do anything." The witch chuckled, reaching into her hut. She pulled out a tiny glass bottle filled with swirling green liquid. "Give this to your friend," she said. "One sip, and she will turn into something harmless, something no one will ever miss." Clara's fingers trembled as she took the bottle. What will she become? The witch's grin widened, showing blackened teeth. "A fish," she whispered. "She will swim away in the river, forgotten forever." Clara hurried back to the village, the bottle hidden deep in her pocket. Her heart raced with excitement and fear. "Soon I'll be queen," she thought. "Soon Emily will be gone." She waited for the perfect moment. A few days after getting the strange green potion from the witch, Emily came to visit Clara in her little hut by the river. Clara's heart pounded as she saw her old friend, now a queen, walking toward her with that same kind smile. "Clara," Emily said happily, "I've missed you so much. The palace is beautiful, but it's not the same without you." Clara forced a smile. "I've missed you too," she lied. Then, seeing her chance, she held out a wooden cup filled with a green, shimmering liquid. "I made something special for you, Emily," Clara said sweetly. "It's a drink to give you strength and keep you happy." Emily's eyes sparkled with trust. "Thank you, Clara. You're such a good friend." Without a second thought, she lifted the cup to her lips and drank it all. Immediately, Emily gasped as her body began to shrink. Her arms disappeared, her legs melted together, and shiny golden scales covered her skin. Before Clara's eyes, her best friend, the kind, beautiful queen, turned into a small, helpless golden fish. Clara's hands trembled as she picked up the fish. Emily's round, frightened eyes stared up at her. "Goodbye, Emily," Clara whispered. Then she carried the fish to the river bank and threw her into the water. "Now King Charles will forget about you, and I will take your place." Days passed, and the palace was filled with worry. Queen Emily, loved by servants, villagers, and King Charles himself, had vanished without a trace. King Charles sent soldiers to search every corner of the land. They looked in forests, in caves, even in nearby villages, but no one could find her. The king grew more restless each day. His once strong voice became weak with sadness, and his bright eyes turned dull. At night, when he finally managed to sleep, strange dreams haunted him. In his dreams, he stood by the riverbank, and there, just beneath the water's surface, was Emily. Her face was sad, and her voice echoed in his ears. "Charles, I am here. I need your help." The dreams became stronger each night, and soon King Charles was sure they were more than just dreams. Emily was trying to reach him. Meanwhile, Clara acted as if nothing had happened. She visited the palace often, pretending to comfort King Charles. "My king," she said one day as they sat in the palace gardens, "I know you miss Emily, but life must go on. The villagers need a strong leader, and I can help you." Her words sounded sweet, but her heart was full of lies. King Charles sighed deeply. "Emily was my light, Clara. Without her, the palace feels empty." Clara's stomach twisted with anger. No matter how kind she pretended to be, the king only saw her as a friend, never as a queen. Weeks turned into months, and strange rumors spread through Abudu. Maybe Queen Emily ran away, some whispered. Or maybe something terrible happened to her, others said, glancing nervously at Clara. But no one knew the truth. One night, Clara sat alone in her hut, staring at the flickering candlelight. Why does Charles still think of Emily? She muttered angrily. She's gone. I should be queen by now. Then a wicked idea came to her. If kindness couldn't win Charles's heart, maybe magic could. She remembered the old woman in the forest, the one who had given her the potion to turn Emily into a fish. If she could make Emily disappear, surely she could make Charles fall in love with me. At dawn, Clara hurried back to the dark forest. The trees loomed like giants, their twisted branches reaching like bony fingers. The air was silent except for the crunch of leaves under her feet. When she reached the witch's hut, smoke curled from the chimney, and the old woman sat outside, grinding herbs in a stone bowl. "Back so soon, child," the witch rasped without looking up. "I warned you. Your first wish would bring trouble. What do you want now?" "I want King Charles to love me," Clara demanded. The witch chuckled darkly. "Love cannot be forced, child, not without a price." "I don't care about the price." Clara snapped. "I'll pay anything." The witch narrowed her yellow eyes. "Anything? Even your womb?" Clara froze. "My womb," she whispered, her hands trembling. "Yes," the witch hissed. "To make the king love you, I need a powerful sacrifice. You will never bear children. If you agree, the charm will work. If you hesitate, leave now." Clara's heart pounded. She had always dreamed of being a mother, but her hunger to be queen burned hotter. She imagined herself wearing a golden crown, sitting beside Charles, with everyone bowing before her. "I agree," Clara said at last, her voice firm. The witch grinned, revealing rotten teeth. She mixed strange herbs, powders, and liquid into a black pot until the air smelled bitter and thick. Then she handed Clara a small red vial. "Cook a meal for the king and pour this into it," the witch said. "When he eats, his heart will belong to you forever. But remember, your womb now belongs to me." Clara rushed back to the palace, her mind racing with excitement. She sweetly asked the servants if she could cook a special meal for the grieving king. "He has been so sad," she lied. "I want to cheer him up." The servants, who trusted Clara, agreed. She prepared a rich stew and secretly poured in the red potion. When Charles sat down to eat, Clara served him herself, her hands shaking. "This is for you, my king," she said softly. "I hope it brings you peace." Charles ate every bite. The magic worked fast. By the time he finished, his eyes softened as he looked at Clara, really looked at her, for the first time. "Clara," he said warmly, taking her hand, "I never realized how much I appreciate you. You've been by my side through everything." Clara's heart leaped with triumph. "I'll always be here for you," she whispered, pretending to be humble. Within days, Charles announced they would marry. The kingdom was shocked. How can he marry Emily's best friend so soon after her disappearance? The villagers whispered. Emily's parents wept. "Clara was like a daughter to us," her mother cried. "How can she replace our Emily?" But no one dared question the king. Meanwhile, far from the palace, a poor widow named Grace and a young daughter Cassie lived in a tiny hut by the river. Life was hard for them. Grace struggled every day just to put food on the table. One misty morning, as the first golden rays of sunlight peeked over the trees, Grace made her way to the river with her large clay water pot balanced carefully on her head. The water was calm, reflecting the pale pink sky like a mirror. "Please, just one blessing," Grace whispered to the heavens as she knelt by the riverbank. "Just one small miracle to ease our struggles." She dipped her pot into the cool water, watching it fill, when suddenly a flash of gold darted beneath the surface. Before Grace could react, something leaped from the river and landed right in her pot with a soft plop. Grace gasped and nearly dropped the pot in shock. There, swirling in the water, was the most extraordinary creature she had ever seen. A fish, but not like the dull gray one she sometimes caught for supper. This fish gleamed like molten gold, its scales shimmering with every movement. Its fins were delicate as lace, and its eyes were deep and knowing, almost human. The golden fish. Grace breathed, her hands trembling. She had heard the old tales. Fishermen spoke in hushed tones of a magical golden fish that appeared once in a lifetime, bringing fortune to whoever caught it. Some said it was a gift from the river spirits. Others claimed it could grant wishes. Grace clutched the pot to her chest and hurried home, her heart pounding. "Cassie," Cassie, come quickly. Grace called as he burst through the hut's rickety door. Cassie, who had been mending a torn dress with clumsy stitches, looked up in alarm. Mama, what's wrong? Grace carefully set the pot down, her face glowing with excitement. Look what the river gave us today. Cassie peered into the water, and her eyes widened into saucers. Mama, is that? The golden fish. Grace laughed, tears of joy in her eyes. The merchants in the city pay a fortune for rare creatures like this. With the money, we could buy a proper house. Cassie interrupted, bouncing on her toes. And new clothes, and meat every day, and maybe even a goat for milk. Grace hugged her daughter tightly. Yes, my love, no more hunger, no more cold nights. Our prayers have been answered. They spent the rest of the day dreaming aloud of warm blankets, sturdy shoes, and full bellies. Grace even let herself imagine sending Cassie to the village school, something she'd never dared hope for before. That evening, they ate their meager supper with lighter hearts, the golden fish swimming in a large clay bowl beside them, its scales catching the firelight like tiny coins. But as night fell and Grace went to bed, Cassie couldn't sleep. She lit a small lamp and crept back to where the fish was. She knelt by the bowl and whispered to the fish, "If you're not just a fish, give me a sign. Show me who you really are." For a moment, nothing happened. But then, the water in the bowl began to ripple, though there was no wind. The fish swam to the surface and stared at Cassie with its shimmering eyes. To Cassie's amazement, she heard a faint voice, soft but clear as day. "Help me," the voice said. Cassie gasped, her heart racing. Who are you?" she asked, her voice shaking. "I am Emily," the voice replied. "I was cursed and turned into a fish by someone I trusted. Please, don't let your mother sell me. I need your help to become human again." Cassie's hands trembled as she held the edges of the bowl. "How can I help you?" But before Emily could answer, a sound came from the other room. Grace stirred in her sleep. Cassie quickly dimmed the lamp and went back to her room. Cassie barely slept that night. Her mind raced with the fish's words. "I am Emily," the voice echoed in her head, filling her with both fear and wonder. Who was this Emily, and how had she become a fish? The next morning, Mama Grace was already awake, humming cheerfully while she packed their few belongings. She carefully placed a golden fish in a small clay bowl, wrapping it tightly with a cloth to keep it hidden. "Cassie, wake up!" Mama Grace called, her voice bubbling with excitement. "Today is the day our lives change forever." Cassie sat up slowly, her heart heavy like a stone. All night, she had tossed and turned, thinking about the fish's words. How could she tell her mother the truth? Would Mama even believe that the golden fish wasn't just a rare creature, but a cursed human trapped in this form? "I'm coming, Mama," Cassie replied, her voice small. Mama Grace bustled around their tiny hut, her face glowing with hope. "Just think, Cassie, with the money from this fish, we'll never go hungry again. No more cold nights. No more begging for scraps. We might even buy a proper house." Cassie forced a smile as she helped her mother prepare for the trip to the market. But when her eyes fell on the covered bowl, guilt twisted in her stomach. They were about to sell a living, breathing person. As they walked to the village market, the dusty paths came alive with chatter. Villagers greeted Mama Grace and Cassie warmly, though many whispered behind their hands when they noticed the carefully wrapped bowl. News traveled fast. Everyone had heard that Nika had caught something extraordinary. When they reached the bustling marketplace, a crowd quickly gathered. Merchants and wealthy villagers pushed forward, craning their necks to see what was hidden under the cloth. "What do you have there, Mama Grace?" asked a merchant, his eyes sharp with greed. With a proud smile, Mama Grace pulled back the cloth. Gasps filled the air as a golden fish was revealed, its scales shimmering like liquid sunlight. "It's a golden fish," someone shouted. "The one from the legends." Merchants began shouting over each other, their voices rising as they threw out higher and higher prices. 50 gold coins. 60. 75. Mama Grace's heart raced. This was more money than she had ever dreamed of, enough to change their life forever. She turned to Cassie, expecting to see her daughter's face lit up with joy. But Cassie stood frozen, her hands clenched into fists. Cassie tugged her mother's sleeve. "Mama, Wait, she whispered. Mama Grace frowned. What is it, Cassie? The crowd fell silent as Cassie took a deep breath. Mama, we can't sell the fish. Laughter and angry shouts erupted around them. Don't be foolish, girl, a merchant snapped. That fish is worth a fortune. But Cassie didn't back down. She looked up at her mother, her eyes filled with tears. Mama, the fish isn't just a fish. She's a person. Her name is Emily. She was cursed and turned into this form. Last night, she spoke to me. We can't sell her. We have to help her. The crowd burst into louder laughter. A talking fish? What nonsense. The child is making up stories. Mama Grace stared into her daughter's eyes. Cassie had never lied to her before, and there was something in her voice, something sure and serious, that made Mama Grace pause. She looked down at the golden fish. Its scales gleamed, but its eyes were too knowing, too human. Her hands trembled. Finally, Mama Grace turned to the crowd and raised her voice. I'm sorry, but the fish is not for sale. The marketplace erupted in anger. You're throwing away your luck, woman. Don't be a fool. But Mama Grace ignored them. She clutched the bowl tightly, grabbed Cass's hand, and hurried away, the shouts of the furious merchants ringing behind them. Meanwhile, 3 of the angriest merchants huddled together in the shadows. That fish is worth more than we'll make in a lifetime, the tallest one hissed. Tonight, we take it by force. The second merchant grinned. We'll sneak into their hut when they're asleep. If they try to stop us, well, they'll regret it. But the third merchant, a quiet man named Gyro, stayed silent. He remembered how Mama Grace had once given him food when he was starving, how she had let him sleep in her hut during a storm. I can't let this happen, he thought. As the others plotted, Gyro slipped away. He had to warn Mama Grace and Cassie before it was too late. He rushed through the village streets as the sun began to set. His heart pounded as he reached Mama Grace's small hut. He knocked softly, his eyes darting around to make sure no one saw him. Mama Grace opened the door, surprised. Gyro, what are you doing here? She asked, her brow furrowed with worry. Listen to me, Gyro whispered urgently, peering over his shoulder. The other merchants, they are coming tonight to steal the golden fish. They don't care who they hurt to get it. You and Cassie must leave the village now. Mama Grace's hands flew to her mouth. Steal the fish? She gasped. Cassie, standing beside her mother, clutched her sleeve. Mama, we have to go, don't we? She whispered, her eyes wide with fear. Mama Grace nodded slowly. Yes, my love, we have no choice. Gyro leaned closer. Go into the forest and hide. Don't stop until you're far away. If you wait too long, it will be too late. With trembling hands, Mama Grace grabbed the golden fish in its bowl, a small bag of food, and a few blankets. Thank you, Gyro, she said, her voice thick with gratitude. We'll go right now. Gyro gave them a quick nod. Go quickly. Stay safe. As the last light of day faded, Mama Grace and Cassie slipped quietly through the village, their footsteps light on the dirt path. The night air was cool, and the only sounds were the rustling leaves and their own quick breaths. Cassie held her mother's hand tightly. Where will we go, Mama? Deep into the forest, Mama Grace whispered. Somewhere no one will find us. The trees loomed ahead, tall and shadowy. The wind whistled through the branches, making Cassie shiver. But she didn't complain. She knew they had to be brave. After walking for what felt like hours, they stumbled upon an old, abandoned hut. Its roof was covered in moss, and the wooden walls were cracked with age. But it was shelter. We'll rest here tonight, Mama Grace said, relief washing over her. At least for now, we're safe. Inside, they spread out their thin blankets and curled up together. The golden fish swam gently in its bowl beside them, its scales glowing faintly in the moonlight. Cassie stared at it. Mama, do you believe me now? About the fish? Mama Grace sighed. I don't know what to believe, my child. But if you say it's true, then we must protect her. Outside, an owl hooted, and the wind rustled the leaves. Somewhere in the distance, a twig snapped. Cass's heart skipped a beat. Mama, do you think the merchants followed us? Mama Grace pulled her closer. "No, my love, we're safe here. Sleep now." But as Cassie closed her eyes, she couldn't shake the feeling that danger was still out there, waiting.